Dad's funeral, Mom adopted a parrot named Carrie. He could replicate my mother's voice completely. Her contralto imitations of Judy Garland, Reba McEntire, and oh my gosh, this horrible rewrite of a Patsy Cline song. Stand by your bird. His parlor tricks just seemed cheap, and I hated the easy way he'd endear himself to my mom. So when I'm having a little trouble explaining to Ike, my 7-year-old son, is this. I lost my mother last spring. So now we are driving 9 hours south on I-95 to a small roadside zoo outside of Myrtle Beach so that I can hear my dead mother's voice ring through the beak of a 36-year-old African gray parrot, a bird that I hated. When we have a problem with someone, we tend to avoid conflict by swallowing our emotions. The communication analysts Joyce Hawker and William Wilmot state that a pattern of mutual avoidance of interpersonal issues can create a de-escalatory spiral, which in turn can lead to the end of a relationship. They also say that collaborating to resolve our conflict leads to better resolution. In other words, conflict is necessary for healthy relationships, and avoidance is detrimental to both us and to others. A woman's relationships with her 7-year-old son and elderly mother teaches that we must learn the art of healthy conflict before it's too late. Housewifely Arts by Megan Mayhew Bergman. When I was almost a year old, I took my mom's house for her to hold while I emptied the old milk from her fridge and scrubbed her toilets. Mom sat in a brown leather recliner, Carney in his white lacquered cage, a foot away, almost always within sight. I placed Ike in her arms. You know, it's not hard to lose the baby weight, if you try. See, I was determined not to fight back. Oh, there was heat between us. Long-standing arguments we could still feel burning. Should we sell Dad's tools? Should she go to the eye doctor? Who would care for her bird? You know, eventually our disagreements became so sharp and so intense that we became afraid to engage with each other. And when we stopped fighting, it's like we lost something. You're just like your father now. Never get mad, even when you want to. A week before she left for the nursing home, we packed up my mom's stuff. Ike was just starting kindergarten, and leaving him at a friend's house to spend time with Mom on a Saturday was a miserable trade-off. I just wanted to soak up every last bit of innocence he had, scoop him up for hugs when he'd allow it, and answer every single one of his questions. But I was the only one that Mom would allow in the house. There was no one else around to help. Mom cupped Carney with both of her hands and brought him to her lap. And then she stroked the finger-wide point between his wings tenderly. You know, the bird, was more familiar with her voice and touch than I was. And he was more dear to her everyday existence. Remember, Mom, I'm not obligated to look after that bird. Well, I'm not obligated to look after you. You know, you are actually. You have to be, Mom. I had thought at the time. You know, her words were a splinter in my chest, and in that moment I withered. I hated her for her coldness and her stubborn rationale and her ability to somehow come up big in a fight, even when she couldn't even see the food on the end of her fork. And then Carney Carney scampers onto her shoulder and buries his head into her hair. And it occurred to me that with her voice inside of him, Bird would always have more of her to remember than me. Ted's roadside zoo depresses me. We park outside. I hone in on Carney. He looked like the same bird, though his eyes had yellowed, his gray feathers had worn thin around his neck. Carney. 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 What's for dinner? Carney. Carney. Carney, wanna sing some Patsy? Stand by your bird. Carney. Stand by your bird. Carney. Carney. For a half hour, I coo and speak and dance, but the bird doesn't say a word. You know, beneath this wall of gray feathers lies the last shard of my mother. And I feel myself growing increasingly desperate. You know, she always spoke sweetly to Carney, and I just wanted to hear that sugary tone, the one that she hadn't used with me in her last years. It's funny, I'm surprised when I remember phone numbers and the alphabetical listing of all 50 states, or the way I can summon Deuteronomy like a song on a long run, but I cannot remember the funny way Mom used to say roof or Clorox, or the rhyme about bad breath she used to say, or the toothpaste jingle she had stuck in her head for 2 years. I mean, not even the sound of the way she used to say goodnight to me. The longer Carney just goes without talking. The more I miss her. We've been driving toward home on I-95 for 5 hours now. The night sets in and the night gets kind of quiet. I watch his eyes in the rear view and I wonder what he's thinking. Will you love me forever? When I get old? If I go crazy? Will you be embarrassed of me? Avoid my calls? Wash dishes when you talk to me on the phone? In that moment, I can't help but think back to that day we packed up my mom's stuff. You know, she had sat there and looked up at me and said, "My heart, I can turn it up." And I know the truth now. What maniacs we are. Sick with love.